What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the show. We got a new host today. Welcome to the Triple Play Fantasy Football Show. We are a proud member of Empire Network and the Empire Media Podcast Network. Your host, Doc, here. D. Mendy, it's his bye week, and I'm here to replace him. I got the normal crew. I got the man that apparently didn't ride bikes and scooters as a kid, John Van Etten. What's going on?
Yeah, you guys, where did you, come on, who taught you to ride a bike? Who taught you to ride a scooter? I can't even ride a bird.
I taught myself, but I feel like most dads teach them to ride bikes, right?
You taught yourself how to ride a bike?
No, you didn't, Doc.
Yeah,
No,
I did.
I
I'm
don't
not saying
believe
I'm
that.
good, but I taught myself.
I don't believe that for a second.
By the way, Eric,
How old were
did
you?
David have to take the week off after we just railed into every single example he gave last time?
That could be it. He didn't disclose
joke?
his reason. But
He's ashamed.
the other voice you're hearing, a handsome member of Triple Play Fantasy, the man that gets up at 4 a.m, plays with his twists, and isn't on his balcony for once. It's Brad Kilgore. What's going on?
Can't complain, man. Good to see these beautiful faces.
Ah, you're too kind. We got Kevin Coleman, a.k.a. the Devi Dad, the man that eats ribs right before and isn't funny. What's going on, Kev?
Hey, I'm just glad you invited me, Eric. I know I'm not bringing any humor to the show, but if I can just help out in any way, that's why I'm here.
We needed that. Maybe you'll give us some jokes today. But fellas, we got a special guest today, and we welcome in a man who I'd like to get a beer with because he's a fellow 49ers fan. He has an interest in sports rehabilitation with an emphasis on an athlete's transition from rehab into return to sports training. A husband and two-time dog dad, he was a 3-year captain of club soccer at San Diego State. He's currently a PT at Thrive Physical Therapy. We welcome in Jeff Mueller. What's going on?
What's up? Man, I didn't realize you were going to go stalk my work page there.
Oh, yeah.
What an intro.
Yeah, no, I definitely stalked your work page, your LinkedIn. I mean, it's cool that it's cool
Birth
that you're big enough.
certificate, social security number.
Oh, man, you got all that? Shoot.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that you're big enough that you have your own page on Meet the Team for Thrive Physical Therapy. So, that's just the internet at its works. But, Jeff, we brought you in because you're a PT, and, I think it's gone a little bit under the radar just how many injuries we had this past offseason. So, before we kind of dive into the topic, is it something that you've kind of studied on your own as we're approaching draft season?
Yeah. I study injuries as a whole, obviously, for my career. But, I've been very interested. I've been working on a couple articles, too. Finished a couple on the rookies. And then I want to work on a piece on all the guys that people have forgotten about who got injured, like week 17 when everyone checks out. And then surgeries during the offseason, like Amari Cooper, Zach Moss, Patrick Mahomes, people who probably didn't even know that they had surgeries.
Yeah, I didn't know Amari Cooper had surgery. This is breaking news to me.
Me neither.
But that's why we brought Jeff on.
Going to be okay. So,
okay. Oh, cool. Because Jeff, and as we mentioned, we're doing injuries, deciding ADP. It's probably the least popular topic to talk about, but somebody's got to do it. And as mentioned, with best ball drafts and some of the home leagues starting soon, we're going to touch on some players who suffered serious injuries that we did follow and decide where it's best to take them. So make sure you stay tuned for that. After that, we'll go to our question of the week. Which NFL player is the best athlete? And as always, we'll have our game of the week revealed at the end of the show. So if you guys are ready to get another episode started, then, man, we're here to do it for you. Let's do it.
No. I was going to say, without David, we don't need somebody yelling in my ears.
It's genetic.
No, I needed to do that to imitate David. But we're going to start off with some news and notes. And the first little bit of news, the schedule came out. A lot of storyline games. First season with 17 regular season games. Which one are you looking at? Kevin, I want to start with you on this.
There's only one. It's Dallas Cowboys at Tampa Bay, first game of the year. As a Cowboy guy, I can't wait to watch us take down the Super Bowl champs. And it's our year this year. I know we say it all the time, but this is our year for Dallas. I think it's a fantastic matchup. First game, I think it's going to do great ratings. I think it's awesome. And it's a great matchup for the start of the NFL season.
Oh, typical Cowboys fan saying it's our year and thinking they're going to win the Super Bowl. Put your money where your mouth is and throw some on there if you're that confident. John, what about you?
Definitely, we got Raiders, Ravens, Monday Night Football in a full stadium for the first time out in Vegas. That'll be cool. But then, I mean, you can't top Tom Brady going back to New England. I think nosebleed tickets are like over $1,000 already.
Oh man, we should all pool in money together and then sell it right before game day and take a nice little profit.
I was gonna say who's going, and we all pool our money together. Who goes?
Hey man, we'll just take a small return on that. Brad, what about you? What game caught your eye?
Man, I can't even fake excitement for a schedule release. Every year they do it, and I just don't care about the matchups. You don't know what injuries are going to be there. I don't care about Tom Brady going back to New England. Like, when the week comes, I'm going to watch football, and that's all that matters. I don't really care about the matchup.
I do want to echo that a little bit. I hate this like 2-hour special that they've decided that they get to do. Like, it's the college basketball selection show. Like, we know the teams that are playing. We know who's going to be in the season.
Trying to commercialize every little piece of everything.
Welcome to the entertainment spectacle that is sports today. Brad, I don't know why I went to your Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Jeff, bring us some good news. What games are you looking at? Maybe any 49ers ones?
Yeah, well, Brad, I'm glad you said that because I didn't even pay attention to schedule release. So I had to look all these up. Well, I got two, but T-Law versus Burrow on September 30th. That should be good. Burrow news will come later. But man, October 31st, I'm praying, Doc, you can probably relate to this. I'm praying for a Lance versus Fields matchup.
Yes.
There's a Halloween game this year.
I'm with it.
Yeah. 49ers Bears.
That is kind of cool. I do like that.
No, Brad, don't switch your mood. Don't change up.
I didn't know about a Halloween game.
For me, I didn't want to be
there's
so
a
much
full moon.
Oh,
I hope that's right.
I guess if Randy Moss isn't playing, that'll be hard.
For me, I didn't want to do too much of a homer pick.
We need a rim shot sound.
I'm not that advanced yet, but I think Tom Brady going back to Foxborough week 4. The NFL purposely did this. Everybody knows. I'd be interested to see if Bill Belichick, kind of his attitude towards the game. I mean, what if he tries to just get Brady hurt and he's like, nope, he's not getting the passing record on my turf. I wouldn't throw anything by him, but.
Well, he's a good quarterback. He played here a long time, but now he plays out in the other team. So we'll see what happens.
We got our next Frank Caliendo, Johnny Football. But speaking of injuries, after getting waived, Juwan James is considering grievance to recoup the lost 2021 salary from the Broncos. James could seek more than $10 million for the lost season. And this is a big deal between the NFL and the NFLPA. DeMaurice Smith has relayed that information to us. Brad, what are your thoughts?
It's really interesting because the NFLPA has, they've really spearheaded the movement to make sure that, players aren't going into doing their voluntary workouts because the COVID, screening and protocols wasn't up to snuff. But it's interesting with, what the CDC has said about, vaccinated individuals and kind of restrictions being loosened everywhere. It's kind of tough for the NFLPA to either reverse their stance because then they'd be siding with the owners. And at the same time, like the players kind of have to go and you can't risk, all this money that is supposedly guaranteed for an injury that's, you're still working to better yourself at your craft, but because you're not actually on the field at the facility, they can literally just not pay you. And it really puts everybody in a tough spot. But I think, the NFLPA has to reverse their stance and say, look, you got to go to the facility to work out because the end result is like you could have a bunch of marquee talent that's just not getting paid and they can't renegotiate that until the next CBA. So it's really just a tough spot for everyone. Yeah,
and I think this is another wrinkle that COVID has added that we didn't really think about. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Broncos could have handled the situation a little better, though, just from actually caring about their player standpoint. But I mean, ultimately, it's a business, and he wasn't at a designated facility to train and got injured there. So,
I'm just curious because I actually don't know the answer to this. If you hurt yourself, and this was like if this was like a month ago before OTAs started and you're just at your home gym and you hurt yourself, would they do the same thing, or is it just because they want to make a point?
No, it's the same thing. It's actually, it's the same thing. It's contractual.
That's stupid.
Kevin, any thoughts that are different from the panel?
Well, I just think if the NFLPA wants people to stay away, they should have some type of insurance money that they put up. And so they can say, like, hey, if you're going to step away, then you sign this insurance policy. If you get hurt at home, we will cover a part of your contract or something. Like, the NFLPA has to protect their players somehow. And I understand. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Kev. My bad.
No, I was just going to say they have to protect their players somehow. At some end, because the NFL teams don't care about them. This is a business. They're going to cut them. It is what it is. So if you want us to stay away, protect us, because they got to get ready for the season. So there's got to be something there.
To your point, like I was under the impression like a union would have like, all sorts of funds that the players would pay into, like a strike fund. So when the next CBA comes around, they can have money to support themselves while also not having to like give into that leverage of, oh, we want to play, we need a check. I would have thought they would have, the same kind of thing for this situation where, a player gets hurt and isn't paid, but the union can still protect them. So to that point, I agree with you.
Kevin, you might not be funny, but you're a genius. And we should bring this up to DeMorris in a few weeks.
Hey, that could be right.
Last little bit of news and notes we have here, and this is an interesting one. Urban Meyer and the Jaguars have had Travis Etienne taking the majority of his reps at receiver during the first 2 days of the team's rookie minicamp. Meyer said, quote, worst case scenario, you have a running back with the skill set of the wide receiver. Best case scenario, you'll have a hybrid player who does both. John, I want to start with you because you've said this quote many times, a jack of all trades, master of none. What are your thoughts on this?
Also, what's the implication by Urban Meyer that he takes a few snaps at wide receiver and all of a sudden he becomes a stud wide receiver? If that was the case, put all my players taking snaps at wide receiver. I mean, it just makes no sense. If you want a wide receiver, get a wide receiver. If you want a good running back, play him as a running back. If he was going to be any good at a wide receiver, he would have been one in college.
No, he's just a better running back.
Brad,
come on, Brad. Why would you want to play running back getting hit every time when you can play wide receiver and get more money and do all the pretty plays?
Because you'll have a shorter career in the NFL, and then you have other stuff to focus on in your life. Brad, you've been chomping at this since Saturday. Go.
I have. I'm warming up to the idea, and I kind of like it from Urban Meyer. I think the NFL game is moving towards more of what the college game is. Like we see. Some of the best quarterbacks in the league are like young mobile quarterbacks, and they're playing in systems that they were playing in college. And, we look at Patrick Mahomes, even though he's not like a young mobile quarterback, he's more a pocket passer, but he's playing in this spread out offense with a bunch of like gadget weapons at wide receiver and, running a bunch of slants and trick plays, as you say, a lot of trick plays, Johnny.
Gimmicky plays.
Gimmicky plays.
And tight end screens.
Exactly. Like, I think that there's something to it. Like the nightmare of trying to be a defensive coordinator in college is that every player can be a weapon. Like these guys are recruited out of high school as literal athletes, like not as positions, because they know, with their talent, with their skill set, you can plug them in anywhere and they can just become dangerous. And I think the Jaguars wanted to draft Tony out of Florida, but he was gone. So they took, the next best athlete that they had on their board, and that was Travis Etienne. And why, stash him on the bench behind James Robinson or put him in a timeshare when you can just go ahead and put him out in the slot and just get him in space? And that's in college, that's where he's most feared, right? A fast running back in space that's elusive. Just give him the ball in the slot, and he's going to do the same thing. So I
cannot wait. I cannot wait for him to start dropping passes from the slot because a couple weeks of catching is not going to turn him into a wide receiver.
No, but he caught a lot. He caught a lot in college too. Like he has that skill set. He can catch.
Worst comes to worst, they'll convert him as a tight end, and he'll get a second chance in the NFL. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of just Urban Meyer. He's going to be a train wreck, by the way, everybody. Like, I think what you need to realize is Urban Meyer it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him just burn that money. and because it's not going to look good. But I will say, like, of his number of total plays when he was at Ohio State, when you look at kind of 2017, he ran the ball basically 35% of his total plays. But the share, and when you look at his pass run ratio, it's pretty much 55 to 45 run. They're going to run the ball more, I think. And with Bevel there, they're going to run the ball. And so I think James Robinson and Etienne they're going to basically have a timeshare almost 50-50 snaps. If they want to get him out in space, I guess slot would be where he's at. But to Johnny's credit, Etienne's not the greatest pass catcher. He catches balls, but he does struggle a little bit. And he has improved every year. But even then, he really looks uneasy catching the ball. And from my perspective, that's not his strength. So this just kind of worries me. I don't know what Urban's trying to do.
There's a difference doing those like halfback routes than sticking somebody in the slot when they're going to get hit as soon as they catch the ball.
Yeah,
sure. No,
great points. But Brad, I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to hear Jeff's thoughts on this.
Yeah, I've been so torn. I traded away 1.5 because I don't want to deal with Etienne, and I don't even know what to think. I'm completely with you, Kevin, on I think Urban Meyer is going to be a train wreck. The concerning part for me is, too trusted. I'm sitting here trying to remember. I know Ray Garvin has said a lot on Etienne's lack of vision or inconsistent vision. And then Graham Barfield's article basically talked about how Etienne's almost like a better third down back than an actual rusher. So now they're using him as a wide receiver. But, you look at all the rumors out of the Steelers camp, and they have Najee out as slot. They moved him out to run routes. So it's the Jaguars are doing the same thing with Etienne. Yeah. So he very well could end up just being a jack of all trades, multi-touch, used everywhere around the field. I'm nervous. I have this gut feeling that Urban Meyer is going to throw Carlos Hyde out there for 10 carries a game.
Oh, he probably will. And if there's one thing that we can guarantee is that when the situation does get messy, that's when Urban Meyer's health problems are going to come up and he's going to leave the situation.
I'll just say it worked for Le'Veon Bell, and in fairness to Urban Meyer, whoever was the coach of this, their first year coach of the Jaguars was going to have a rough year. Like this isn't a good team. There's a reason they had the number 1 pick. Like it was going to be a train wreck for anybody that took this.
Yeah, but they're getting paid the big bucks, and that's all they care about. But
I'm just glad Urban Meyer's able to relax in a stress-free job. Finally.
There you go. But speaking of jack of all trades, that's kind of what we do. And make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button wherever you find your podcast. Want to hear more Triple Play? Well, great news for you. We do fantasy baseball and basketball on top of football that you can also check out. Available anywhere you get your podcasts. If you're enjoying the rating, how about rehabbing those finger muscles by giving us a 5-star rating and review on the Apple Podcasts? Check us out on our socials at TripPlay Fantasy and the website tripplayfantasy.com. You'll see my tweets, get a ton of interaction that makes David jealous. You'll also see a lot of articles, videos, podcasts, and even some movie reviews from those two handsome fellas on the right. So make sure you check that out. Remember when you jump off a swing set as a kid and you'd land without any aches and pains? Wasn't that the best feeling looking back? Well, that's the feeling we want to provide. Thank you to everyone out there that supports us by listening, watching, and interacting with us every single week. If you're watching the live version, we're not going anywhere. But if you're on the podcast version, we'll jump into injuries deciding ADP right after this quick break. And we're back. Fellas, I wrote a little song or haiku to set the mood for tonight. Now, I got to give a little credit to Michael Govier in the fantasy baseball world if he's listening to this. But here we go. Tonight, we're talking about injuries and how they affect ADP. Is it a yes indeed? No for me. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Why did you say haiku?
It just kind of fit in the rhythm of it. Just appreciate that I took some time to create that song.
Did you steal that from David? But
no, I got to give Govier some credit.
We're going to get sued by the Michael Jackson estate.
We're not thinking about that right now. Because right now, we're talking about injuries to star players in 2020. And thankfully, because of modern medicine and surgeries, players have a higher chance of bouncing back to their pre-injury ways. Now, we're going to go position by position and review some players that are coming off serious injuries. How do you think their performance will be in 2021? Is their ADP too high? too low, or just right? Goldilocks reference. And we will be using Fantasy Pros PPR ADP for redraft leagues to determine. So the first guy, and we had mentioned Mr. Joe Burrow, and although his 2.71 record might have not showed it, Joey B was lighting it up to begin his NFL career. He had a 13-5 touchdown to interception ratio while completing over 65% of his passes. He even had 3 rushing touchdowns, showing he had some mobility with his legs. But unfortunately, week 10, he tore his ACL against the Washington football team. At the time, he had completed 22 passes. Now, some of us had bet the over on the 23.5 completions. That wasn't me. That was me. This was later in the season, but some encouraging news was in late April. Video surfaced of him doing some light on-field work. Now, the Bengals added Jamar Chase to replace A.J. Green. His ADP right now is 102, which is QB 11. So, Jeff, I'm starting with you. Is it too high, too low, or just right?
And we're talking redraft, correct?
Redraft, PPR, even though it doesn't matter for quarterbacks.
So I was looking at this, and I was more so looking at the players afterwards, too. First off, I think Joe Burrow will be ready week 1. But I think he's going to be a little rusty coming back, and I expect him to run a lot. I would say in redraft, but again, this is how I typically play with redraft of going quarterback really late. I would rather pass on him where he is.
So it's too high for you.
Too high.
Okay, a little too hot. All right, Kevin, what are your thoughts on Mr. Burrow?
Yeah, I'll just wait. That's kind of in that weird territory where I don't want to grab a quarterback anywhere. So if I'm not going to get one of the top guys, maybe in that 3rd, 4th round, I'll just wait after Burrow. That knee looks, I mean, I'm not an expert, but that knee looks bad. And they're going to need some time to kind of get back in there. He could be a guy that maybe you get as a QB2 a little later, or maybe someone drops him because he doesn't play very well, especially in redraft formats, and they kind of move on. But yeah, I'm not taking him in that high. I wait.
So, Brad, he added, I think we can all agree at this point, Jamar Chase is going to be an upgrade over A.J. Green. He is probably one of the most talented trios in the league. Is that ADP? Does that feel right to you, given his weapons?
It does, yeah. I'm a guy that, like, when a player says they're healthy and they're out there playing, I'm going to assume that they're going to be, the same caliber that they were, or else they wouldn't play. These guys are making long-term decisions with their careers, so, they're not going to jeopardize it by having bad games game after game because people make that assessment about your talent. So if he's out there week 1, I think the Bengals are still going to be bad. They're going to be throwing the ball a ton, and who's got better chemistry with Joe Burrow than Jamar Chase. So with all their weapons, I think they're going to have a really explosive offense in terms of fantasy, a lot of 4th quarter garbage points. And I think if you can get him at that ADP, you're going to be happy with it.
Personally, I wish the Bengals kind of shored up their offensive line. I think that was a big Achilles heel and ultimately kind of what led to Burrow getting hurt. John, what are your thoughts?
Well, when you initially, I was ready to say he was going to be ranked too high, but then you said he was QB 11. And I thought, that was lower than I thought it was going to be when we started the segment. So I think he's just about right. Like Brad said, he's got a ton of weapons. I think he's right there. It's going to be like the old Andy. It's going to be like the old Carson Palmer, Chad Ochocinco days. I almost called Carson Palmer Andy Dalton, but we'll move past it.
All right. So we got 2 people that's too high and 2 people just right. Nope, not everybody agreeing. That's what I like. And we're going to go to another quarterback, and this is Mr. Prescott.
Well, what did you think, Eric?
For me, it's a little too high. I think you can find a lot of value in QBs later, and I don't like picking someone that high that is coming off a serious injury, even if he does have a talented wide receiver.
So are you going to say that to just about everybody on the list then, since we're doing injuries?
No, because QB is the deepest position. So I don't want to overdraft.
So if he plays 16 games, you don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback?
No.
Which team is he missing?
I don't think we're going to see that rushing.
Oh, my bad. 17 games.
Brad, here's a question. Would you want Burrow or Matt Stafford next year or for this year?
Stafford.
Burrow. 100% Burrow.
Whoa.
He has
That's a good one.
he has the running element that Stafford doesn't have. I like to know that if a QB is going to have an off game or he's up against a tough defense, that he can make it up on the ground. So and Stafford, new face, new place. I wouldn't be shocked if he had like a rough, first six
no
games
quarterback
of the season,
has gotten such a good PR campaign from being traded as Matt Stafford. I feel like nobody
right?
talked about that he was a good quarterback until all of a sudden he goes to LA and he's like a missing piece now.
Real ones.
That's a good question, though. That's a good question.
It is great. It is great. Now,
I was looking at it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off, Jeff.
Well, I was just looking at it where Burrow is quarterback 11, and then afterwards you got Tannehill, Matt Stafford, and then Matt Ryan. And it's like all three of those guys could outscore Burrow next year.
They could. They could.
This is going to be something that we got to keep an eye on, especially, like I said, video surfaced of him last month throwing. He is still wearing a brace. So it's something you're going to want to monitor. But we're going to talk about a quarterback, Mr. Dak Prescott. And I'm looking at
It's their year. I've heard people are saying it's their year.
Coming into the 2020 season, the sky was the limit for Rain Dakota Prescott. He had arguably the best wide receiver core in the game with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. Blake Jarwin was a popular tight end sleeper, and Zeke was still viewed as a top 5 running back. Now, the first 4.5 games looked good for Dak. He was on pace for over 6,000 passing yards and 30 passing touchdowns, also adding 3 rushing touchdowns. Then in week 5, he suffered a gruesome lower body injury many of us saw live. The surgeries to his ankle were serious. Doctors had to repair a compound fracture and dislocation of the right ankle in October. Then in December, Prescott got a cleanup of the same ankle to strengthen it. The second surgery would have occurred at some point regardless of what transpired against the Giants in October. Now, Prescott signed a massive extension in the offseason. He has all of his weapons back. His ADP right now is 57, QB4. Kevin, the Cowboys fan, it's their year, but are you taking Dak at this price?
Hell yeah, I'm taking Dak as QB4. He was QB1 last year through 4 weeks. He averaged 31 points per game. And I think that if you're going to reach on a quarterback, you can kind of just get him on the outside if you're looking at kind of where you're talking about with redraft. I would rather have him than Lamar, even though he has that rushing upside. I would take Dak. I think that as QB1 with those weapons, a second year with CeeDee Lamb, who I think is going to kind of forefront on as wide receiver 1 of that team. I'll buy. I'm biased though. I'll admit it. But Dak was QB1 last year going into 4 weeks, and that defense is terrible, guys. I'm just letting you guys know that they didn't really improve their secondary. They took a bunch of guys that have some question marks. They really haven't improved their interior defensive line to the area that I want to see. So you're going to see a lot of points, 30, 40 points in these games. They can't stop anybody.
The first step in admitting it is showing your bias. So I'm very proud of you for saying that. Brad, what are your thoughts? Are you taking Dak at that ADP?
Actually, yeah, I agree with everything Kevin just said. Even the Dak over Lamar thing, I agree with. I just think that's such an explosive offense, and these kind of injuries, like it's not like a running back where it's like, okay, they tear their ACL, and historically speaking, it takes 2 years for them to get back to form. With quarterbacks, I think they can kind of hit the ground running, and I think he's had reports that I don't know how true this is, but because of how hard he's worked, and maybe he's like got mutant healing genes, that he's actually ahead of schedule and he's moving faster than where they thought he'd be at this point. And all that to me says, this is going to be a good sign. He's going to be back to normal, and I think if you can get a QB1 caliber player at QB4, you're having a hell of a draft. So I'm definitely picking that.
John, are you riding the wave?
I'm riding the wave. Anytime you can get 6,000 yards, I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. I think that'd be some sort of big deal. But
they got that 17th game, man.
Breaking this news to me that he's ahead of schedule. I mean, hey, what's
that's
not
what
to
they
like?
say.
He's ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
I feel like they say that with everybody, though.
Yeah, no. Besides,
you got to set just like a crappy schedule.
I also don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm just being like, fooled by the wording of it, but can you really like work hard into rehab? Like, how does rehab work that you can just work very hard?
I've got good news for you.
That's where Jeff comes in. Perfect segue.
Yeah, I would say. Well, you can first off, but yeah, I don't know about the whole ahead of schedule. He's 7 months out, 7 months 6 days out from surgery, and or at least his first surgery. And I've seen videos of him moving around and taking snaps, his pocket mobility. I would say he's either right where I would expect him to be, or I would have said a little behind. But I mean, I'm not concerned about it. I marked him as I think his ADP is too low. Granted, I had him at quarterback 5, overall pick 57 when I looked at Fantasy Pros. But yeah, I think he's too low because he's gonna hit the ground running. Just like Kevin said, that defense is horrendous. He's gonna have to pass 40 times, and he has all the weapons. So I'm not concerned about his ankle at all.
Yeah, and I'm with the majority on here. I think his ADP is just right. I think if he had been fully healthy or something with a little bit of the less significant injury, his ADP is higher. I mean, he probably has the best wide receiver core in the game. And Kevin made a very important note of just how bad the defense is. Fantasy doesn't care about how bad your defense is. In fact, you probably want to have a bad defense for the quarterback that you're taking for all those garbage time points. So we're mostly agreeing on that. Now we're going to go to the running back position. And we're talking about Saquon Barkley, everyone's favorite guy to talk about his quads. Barkley had 19 carries for 34 yards and 6 catches for 60 yards before tearing his ACL in week 2. He suffered the injury earlier in the year and has had plenty of time to recover and will be a young 24 when the season starts, but he's had a couple of nagging injuries over the year. Hasn't looked quite the same since his rookie year. His ADP right now is 3.4, so definitely still an early pick. Jeff, too high, too low, or just right?
I'm prepared to take some heat. Too high.
I agree.
Yeah. Based on the Giants' moves this offseason, which they're a little odd, but I mean, yeah, Tony addition, but then Devonta Booker calling him a 3-down back, and Saquon coming off his injury. His surgery was delayed about a month and 10 days. He's going to be, I believe, right at the 9-month mark when he comes back. And I really think they're going to ease him in. They're not going to give him his full workload day one. So plus mitigating risk, I would take – I have Kamara down below Barkley, Derrick Henry below him, and Zeke. I would take those 3 over Saquon for this year.
Would you take Dalvin Cook?
I would. Cook is at 2. I would, even though they don't have Gary Kubiak, they have his son in there as the OC.
So you're saying now the earliest you would take him is 5?
6.
Okay.
Yeah, CMC, Kamara, Cook, Derrick Henry, Zeke, then Saquon.
Okay. That's not the chalk answer. John, where are you taking Saquon?
Much lower than what you said, or lower as in worse. Later. This is his second year in a row where he's had like a year-ending injury. It's just terrible. And I almost had the trade of the year where you offered me like 3 players for Saquon the 20 minutes before he injures his leg or something, and that would have been quite the heist. But
yeah, and you should have taken it. And the ankle or the injury you're referring to the year before, he had a high ankle sprain. I believe missed 4 games. It was originally expected he'd miss 6 to 8, but
I think he only missed 2.
Oh, he only missed 2. Wow.
Yeah, he rushed back, and he was limited for 2 or 3 games back.
Yeah, and he even said, that injury affected him mentally. Brad is a fan of the team in the division. What are your thoughts on Mr. Barkley?
I'm pretty much out on Saquon this year. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 back, to be honest.
Wow.
I
can't wait to see your rankings.
And it's for all the reasons that, Jeff mentioned, like they made moves that are probably going to put him in a timeshare and they're going to ease him in. And I think they want to be a more pass heavy offense. That defense isn't great. I expect them to be throwing the ball a lot. I don't anticipate Saquon Barkley is going to be the weapon that he was, in his rookie year. And maybe that comes back next year, but it's not going to be this year. So I'm probably steering clear of him this year.
Kevin, I want to ask you this. Do you think that Saquon Barkley has had the best year of his career when his rookie season? I think 1,600 yards, double-digit touchdowns. Do you think we see that Saquon ever again?
No, I don't think so. I think like 1,300 yards is about where I would kind of put him at. I think that injury was real, and like Jeff talked about, like it took him a while because that swelling was so bad, right? Like I'm not an injury expert, but like I feel like there's definitely some things there. That offensive line's not great. They tried to rebuild it, but Gettleman has not done a very good job there. Daniel Jones is trash. Like, so there's not a lot of things that they got to worry about there with like in that offense, and they're going to be keen on Barkley. I agree with what these guys are saying. I don't think I would take Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I don't think I'd take him over Jonathan Taylor. I think I'd rather have Taylor in redraft, to be honest.
Let's name. All right, so we got Dalvin Cook, we got Derrick Henry, we got Zeke
Christian
Elliott,
McCaffrey,
we got Christian
Zeke.
McCaffrey, we got Kamara, we got Jonathan Taylor, we got CEH. We got Antonio Gibson.
You're coming off at 6. I think once you
Antonio
got
Gibson, Najee Harris, like all these guys are not going to be.
Josh
Jacobs, Nick Chubb. That's 10 already. Like there's so many people that aren't going to be in a timeshare that aren't going to have to worry about last year's injury that aren't on bad teams. I just don't see this path for him to be what he was last year.
Yeah, I'm with you guys as well. I think his ADP is too high. I think everybody looks at him as such a physical specimen, and he is. But you have to figure that the injuries are going to play a factor. I mean, he even admitted that the high ankle sprain mentally played a factor in his comeback. So if this is a more serious injury, and he had 19 carries for 34 yards, he's had spurts where it looks like he's trying to do too much, and his yards per carry isn't great. So we're all in agreement on that. We're going to go
I want you to all know this is my new safe place.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get ripped for that.
No. Welcome here, Jeff. I'll never rip another fellow.
Haters over here.
I'll never rip another fellow 49ers fan. We're going to go to an injury-prone running back, and that's Joe Mixon. Now, he suffered a foot injury week 6 against the Colts. The team originally labeled him as day-to-day for the longest time, and he ended up not playing another game. Now, they never disclosed what the injury was. His ADP is 24 right now. Is it too high, too low, or just right, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying not to fall into the trap of Joe Mixon again.
It's a drug.
It is. It really is, because he is really skilled when healthy, but he's never healthy. And his OC's talking about he never wants him to come off the field, more snaps, more getting hit. Plus, like you guys mentioned with Burrow, they didn't really shore up the O-line. I'm not convinced Jonah Williams can stay healthy. Riley Reef was a good signing, but, I mean, how much does that change the offensive line? If you're looking for a running back who is in line for 20-plus touches, Mixon is great. But I would say his ADP is too high, because if you're taking Mixon there, you're passing on Akers, Gibson, Swift, Allen Robinson. It's like I can't do that.
You're probably passing on Saquon too.
And John, it's someone that had Mixon not in his top 25 last year.
No, it did not.
Where are you thinking?
I think that's absolutely too high, and I'd argue he's not that talented when healthy. If you take out 3 games, he's basically Devontae Booker. Like if you take out 3 games a year,
whoa.
The vast majority of all his fantasy points, yards, touchdowns come in like 2 or 3 games a season, and then the rest of it he's inconsistent and trash.
Well, there goes our chance to get Joe Mixon on the show.
Yeah, no Gio Bernard to steal his touches this year. So maybe that's why his
if Gio Bernard is stealing your touches, that's an indictment on you.
Fair point.
Chris
Brad,
Evans.
What are your thoughts?
So if he wasn't injury prone, like if I knew I was going to get 17 games out of him, I still would not take him at 24. Like,
my gosh. What if there was a curveball?
I mean, we finished talking about Joe Burrow and how bad this team's going to be. They're going to be in tons of shootouts and trying to get back in games. Like, he's going to have a negative game script every game for this entire season, I imagine, if the Bengals are as bad as we think they are. So that's tough to draft that high when you know that he's not going to get touches, in the fourth quarter. So in fairness, why would we expect that he would stay healthy for a whole season? So, I mean, this is a guarantee. This is a sport where there's 100% injury rate. Like, you're going to get hurt. So that's not even an indictment on his character, his toughness, or anything like that. Like, he's just going to get hurt. It's football. So I'm just not a fan of drafting somebody high when you know they're going to be in a negative game script.
Brad, my response to that is past performance is not always indicative
Yeah.
of future success. I use that in my sales calls, and it works. I'm using it on you. Kevin, wrap us out real quick. Your thoughts on Mixon?
Yeah, I'm a Mixon truther, so I'm going down with the Titanic with him. He'll be hanging out with me as we go down together. I do think that his ADP finally recognizes like his where he should be, his value. Like, it's finally probably running back 2 on a team, maybe running back 3 depending on where he falls. If he does, because unlike Johnny who thinks he's Giannotti Bernard's better, I do think Mixon has running back 1 ability. So if he could, if he's your running back 2 or 3, and he does stay, there's a lot of iffy. I know that, but if he does do those things, you could have 2 running back 1s on your team, and that's how you win. That's win.
True.
He could win you a game or 2 and then lose you 8 more.
I could, as someone that's had Mixon and dealt him for Tyreek Hill last year, the game right before he got hurt. It's like that. It was like that was I'm off the Mixon drug now. Like, that was my last time getting him. I still think his ADP is a little too high because you do know that he is probably going to miss some time.
I'll say this though, like, you're more like, at least I feel like you're more likely to grab a running back off the waiver wire that's going to be starting a few games for an injured first string running back than you are like drafting Joe Mixon at 24. Like,
Yeah.
I just think there's more you can do with that ADP than to get like an injury prone running back.
That's true. And I know a lot of people, they like taking healthy people or, non-injury prone players at an early spot. We're going to go to the wide receiver position now. And we're going to start with Michael Thomas. Coming off a career year where he caught an NFL record 149 balls for 1,725 yards, he significantly fell off due to a high ankle sprain he suffered at the end of week 1. Thomas would end up playing 7 games, catching 40 passes for 438 yards, but no touchdowns. Thomas admitted after the season that he was playing through pain, often being a decoy and suiting up for one last Super Bowl run for Drew Brees. But the aforementioned Brees is now out of the picture, and Thomas will be lining up for either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. His ADP right now is 20. Jeff, too high, too low, just right?
I would say too high, but not because of injury. I'm less concerned about injury as much as I'm concerned about how that offense is going to look. The Saints have a good defense. Jameis could throw it out, air it out, but I trust Michael Thomas way more with Drew Brees than I do with whoever lines up at quarterback.
Okay, I like it. So
Taysom Hill, whoever.
So the quarterback situation affects it more than the injury, and that's true. You're going from a Hall of Famer to a gadget or a guy that's the only member of the 30-30 club. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm out on the Michael Thomas train. I don't want anything to do with him. I don't know about the offense. I don't know what's looking there. I think it's too high. I'd rather have some other guys going around that. Terry McLaurin, even, and I hate Amari Cooper, but I'd take Amari Cooper, I think.
Amari Cooper?
I don't like Amari Cooper, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this outside my mouth because I'm going to throw up after the show. But I think I'd rather have him over Michael Thomas based on their ADP. Just I don't want the Michael Thomas train anymore. He's got a little bit of a diva thing going on. Taysom Hill can't play quarterback. Jameis Winston, who the hell knows? So I'm just going to stay away.
Are you prepared for Amari Cooper, though, to have a 0-for-0 week 14 in the first round of the fantasy playoffs when he faces a number 1 corner?
Yeah, he's going to – I hope he's playing against me like he always is, and I can do it because I never have him.
There we go.
There's a lot of Cooper stands. I found that out the other day on Twitter when I said CD was their wide receiver 1. I had a lot of Cooper people coming after me.
That's probably all his family. I can't think anyone I know that's a Cooper stan. Speaking of someone that is not a Cooper stan, though, John, what are your thoughts on Mr. Michael Thomas?
I think it's just right or maybe too low if Jameis Winston is quarterback. The 30-30 club, he had 30-30 vision, got LASIK, sat behind Drew Brees. He's going to be awesome when he comes back. I think he's way too high if Taysom Hill is anywhere near lighting. If he does 5 gadget plays behind center, that's too much for me next season.
Okay. Speaking from the guy that is not the Amari Cooper stands, he'll probably be drafting Michael Thomas over him. Brad, what are your thoughts?
Johnny took the words right out of my mouth. I think if we get a situation where Jameis Winston is the quarterback, I think he's way, way too low. Like I'll take Michael Thomas very high with that because James is going to air it out, 30 to 50 times a game. And Michael Thomas is going to get at least a 25% share of that. And he's their possession receiver and he's their red zone target. Like I think he becomes a very attractive asset because also the Saints are going to need to air it out. They're going to be in some shootout games. They also don't have that big stout defense where, they're only going to need to score 15 points a game. If Taysom Hill's the quarterback, I'm not even touching Michael Thomas. I'm not a Taysom Hill guy at all.
So I guess Jeff's dog must be a Michael Thomas fan because he hopped off and wanted to get him and wanted to get into the conversation. I think it's too low regardless of whoever plays quarterback. Obviously, we know what Jameis Winston can do. He's not afraid to lock into his favorite wide receiver, even if he's in triple coverage. And they did lose Emmanuel Sanders. So really, is this Traquan Smith year again? But with Taysom Hill against the Eagles, Michael Thomas had a 100-yard game. And I think that, the majority of the touches are going to go to Kamara and Michael Thomas. But Drew Brees didn't look the same last year. In the playoff game against the Bucs, he threw 3 interceptions for the first time at home in a playoff game in his career. So I think regardless of who's playing quarterback, they're going to have a little bit more zip. They're going to be a little bit more poised in the pocket. And I think it's way too low.
I don't know if Taysom gets more zip than retiring Drew Brees. We saw that duck that Emmanuel Sanders bailed him out with.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Michael Thomas this year. This is a guy that hadn't missed a game due to injury besides the high ankle sprain he had. But definitely somebody that's been a little polarizing, and I picked him for a reason. It seems like there's a lot of disagreement. Either you like Michael Thomas and you think his value is a bargain, or you're not touching him at all. Especially with kind of the QB uncertainty.
Another thing is there's no reason to think Michael Thomas got worse. You might think his situation got worse, but there's no reason to think him as the player got worse. And him as the player is just a tremendous talent. Like at the very least, he's going to get you a lot of PPR points just from catching a bunch of those slants and going from there. So I just think he's a very good asset, and if you can get him at around 10, I don't think that's crazy.
And we all know Brad doesn't like to project injuries or poutiness.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
You know what? It's funny. I heard something the other day, and by heard I mean I just made this up right now. You can't have a conversation about Michael Thomas and not bring up the word slant once, and Brad just proved it. We got 2 injury wide receiver comebacks left, and the first is Cortland Sutton, and somebody that suffered another serious injury early in the season. After suffering an AC joint sprain in week 1, Sutton tore his left ACL attempting to make a comeback or attempting to make a tackle after an interception in week 2. Here I am thinking about comebacks. He's been rehabbing, quote,
that's why you don't hustle, boys.
According to Pro Football Talk, and the goal is to have him ready for week 1. Sutton did not miss a game in his first 2 years and is in a contract year, which we all know is important. His ADP right now is 68.5, which would be the middle of the 6th round in a 12-team league. Jeff, too high, too low, just right?
I think it's just right. Typically, coming off the ACL tears, the player is typically a little slow to start production-wise. So I think it's just right. Ultimate deciding factor for me whenever my draft is who's playing quarterback. And we may not even know at that point. Obviously, if they trade for Aaron Rodgers, then we know. Then I would say it's too low. But yeah, for right now, I saw a picture of him today. He still has his brace on. I'd love to see him shed that, and then I might move him up a little bit. But for now, it's just right.
All right. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's about just right. I don't want to keep piggybacking on these ideas, but I don't think it's really too low. I don't think it's too high in terms of where he's going. I worry about Locke, but to be honest, he had one of his best seasons with Locke those last few games that he played with him 2 years ago. I have Sutton everywhere in dynasty leagues. I wouldn't mind taking a shot at him, especially if you go running back heavy early. He could be your wide receiver 2 or 3, and I think that's pretty good value for what he could do. I think he's the number 1 option there, and I think that, again, they're going to be bad too. So their defense isn't great. They're aging. You're going to see them throw a lot. So yeah, I'm on the kind of the same train.
All right, John, what are your thoughts?
Just about right, but because Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the starter there.
There we go. Another curveball.
Drew Lock is interception prone, and it's going to have some good consistency with Teddy there, and it's going to be great.
All right, Brad, is it just about right for you as well?
Catherine walked in while you were talking. Who were you mentioning?
Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton. Okay. Cortland
ADP
Sutton,
is 68.5, which is the middle of the 6th round in a 12 team. Hey, Catherine.
I can't believe you didn't round, Eric, by the way.
So Cortland Sutton is one of those players, along with like James Robinson, who, like, I don't have the scouting acumen to even say if they're good players or not, or if they just like get luck, like have good seasons. So he's somebody I naturally stay away from because I don't know if Cortland Sutton is actually good. He's a big body. He seems to get those red zone targets. He makes good possession receptions. But I don't know even if he had a good quarterback if he'd be like a top, 15 wide receiver. So I don't think about Cortland Sutton. He's a name that whenever I see him on my draft board, I just keep scrolling.
All right. Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that, Brad. I'm a big Cortland Sutton stan. John knows I traded for him right after our home draft one year because I needed a share of him. For me, it's too high. And I was reading a report that said, quote, he tore up his knee, which makes me think that there's more damage than just a torn ACL. You figure that Jerry Jeudy takes a step up this year. KJ Hamler takes a step up. Maybe they've already thought about his potential replacement, and they don't have that initiative to play him and to try to have him get a big contract. So maybe they can bring him on a reduced cost.
That's a good point.
I like his talent. I just don't like how serious his injury is, and especially with 17 games. It's just something that in the middle of the 6th round, I think that you can get a lot of value for healthy players. But we'll see. He's somebody I'm certainly rooting for him to do well, and I wouldn't be mind being wrong and eating my words. Now,
I would take his teammate, actually, who I saw going after Sutton, Fant. I would rather take Fant there.
No Fant. The backfield, Melvin Gordon still has that. Good. Javante.
When is Noah Fant going to get a Fanta sponsorship? I feel like that's right there.
I think John froze. Well, that means we'll go to our last guy, and it's Mr. Odell Beckham Jr., a guy that has seen a drop off in his production the last couple of years. He only had 2 games with 10 plus fantasy points in 2020, but one of those was a 33-point performance against Kevin's Cowboys. There you go. Defense sucks.
Yes.
He tore his ACL week 7 against the Bengals. Now, he had an ankle sprain and fracture in 2017 that cost him to miss 12 games. He's 28 years old and his ADP is 67, but he has not looked the same the last couple of years. So, Jeff, too high, too low, or just right?
Too high, definitely. I am completely out on OBJ. Newsflash, he doesn't play for the Giants anymore. Staying away.
All right, that's easy. John.
I think it's too high too. If you take away his name recognition and you just put his past season stats after he left the Giants, nobody would take him that high or even remotely close.
All right, this is an easy one. Brad.
I think it's too low.
Yes.
I think that name recognition matters, right? Like the reason we know who Odell Beckham Jr. is because he did truly amazing things when he was with the Giants. And it's not like he had some gunslinging.
We know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. He didn't do anything that amazing. So.
It depends on who you ask. But he had amazing seasons with the Giants, and he didn't have some gunslinging quarterback and Eli Manning. He just made do with what he had, and he was the focal point of that offense, which gave him, tremendous numbers. Now, he's not going to be the focal point with the Browns. They actually have a run game, and Jarvis Landry is getting all those, possession receptions. But I think they've made such an investment in Odell Beckham, and he's had such a rough welcome there that I think Baker Mayfield is definitely going to try to force him the ball, and I think we're going to see a lot of red zone targets from him. They're going to get him more of those slants that Jarvis Landry's getting. They're going to try to get him involved in the offense and try to get him hot. And I just think if you can get him, everybody's so down on Odell Beckham, it's going to push his ADP down, and you're going to be able to get him at a place where you wouldn't have thought you would be able to.
It's interesting that you bring up Baker Mayfield getting him the ball because it seems like when he's playing, the Browns look like a worse team because Baker's trying to feed it to Odell Beckham.
They're trying to force it to him. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we've seen he's been out, they actually look like a better team. Jarvis Landry or Rashad Higgins or whoever has been the number 2 has filled in beautifully because they can spread the ball around.
That's true, but for fantasy purposes, we don't care, what they look like or who's the better team.
There we go.
We care about who's getting the points. Yeah, we care about who's getting the points.
You don't care. Points are points.
Exactly.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Well, if they play the Cowboys every week, I would definitely be on. I'd be buying this. I like how he destroyed my team and then got hurt afterwards. I don't know, man. I don't know what to do with OBJ. That offense, I think it's all about game script to me. So that's why I kind of go away from it because I feel like they're going to run the ball. Hunt and those guys are going to get targets as well out of the backfield. They still use their tight ends, Hooper and those guys that are there. I just don't think that he's going to get enough targets for what goes with his ADP. And I'd just take other guys around him. Like I'd rather have DJ Chark probably around that area. Some other guys that maybe they'll throw the ball a little bit more. I like Chark though, and
is he still in Jacksonville?
Yeah.
So you like Chark with Trevor Lawrence, a rookie quarterback, more than OBJ with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, Chark's at least going to play.
There we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
so for me,
I think Baker's stock is being inflated too. I know we're not going to talk about him, but
that's going to be for the AFC North preview. So stay tuned for that in a couple weeks. For me, I think Odell's stock is way too high. You take out that 33.4 point performance, and he's someone that is averaging maybe double digits that you don't feel confident starting each week. At the point of the Cowboys, I think he's probably started in like 60% of leagues, which is crazy that you're saying that for last year, a top 3-4 round pick. And part of his game was based on speed. And you figure that the more injuries you have to the lower body, that's going to take it away. And in the NFL, literally, if you lose a split second of that agility, that's what takes you from a slant, taking it to the house, to getting tackled for a slant for a 7-yard gain. So I hope I'm wrong because I like Odell Beckham and an extreme talent, but those injuries just start to add up, and he feels older than 28.
Hey, Jeff, how do you feel about the injuries that OBJ has had? Do you think he's going to be like a shell of himself or pretty much the same guy?
Well, yes, plus compounded with the MetLife turf. Okay. I'm one of those who speculates that with that turf, it's just, we've seen so many injuries occur there. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm thinking Giants. Sorry, I was thinking past OBJ.
I feel like
never mind about the turf. But
doesn't Cleveland have turf too?
They can't afford turf. They have grass.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
They got grass.
Grass is better than. I don't think the players like playing on turf.
We're ending this segment with a shot at the Browns for being too cheap to have turf. I love it. Sorry, any Browns fans we offend. We're going to now go to the fun part of the show, and that's the question of the week. Now, we're sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. You listening, Brad? Because Triple Play Fantasy is now an affiliate to them, the fastest growing sports betting site in the United States. Use promo code Triple Play, that's one word, and get up to $50 of your deposit matched when you become a new user and use that code. If you're looking to win some cash, make sure you follow the Triple Play Monkey Knife Fight show each weekend to give you a 10 to 15-minute look at the gaming landscape with our locks to help you win big. You listen, Brad? We got to get a show done this weekend. Can't put it off anymore.
Yes,
so our question this week, who is the best athlete in the NFL? And you can interpret this a couple ways, and I think there's a couple answers that we're going to hear. So, Jeff, you're the guest. I want to start with you.
I would say Mitch Wisnowski. No, I'm kidding. Aaron Donald.
Ooh.
Easily. Size, speed, freak.
Trains with knives.
He moves. It's unbelievable how he moves at his size and just how he freaking train wrecks people. So I have
breaks up bar fights.
Yeah, and then gets falsely accused.
They need to sign whoever pulled him off the guy.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
put him on the practice squad.
I heard Seattle's going to.
I dig it, the Seahawks. I love it. Jeff, you're my best friend. Brad, what about you? Who's your guy?
Man, it's hard for me to think of anybody but Lamar. Like that dude can. He's literally like a human joystick. I know we use that term too much, but he really is that. Like he can change speeds, change direction on a dime. The dude is just dynamic. I feel like he can play any sport.
And you know what's interesting? He said, "quote that he's never gone 100% speed in any game." Now, if that's just hoopla, who knows?
Why wouldn't he have? I mean, what is it?
I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't want to risk injury. Maybe he'll go a 95.
It'll be too easy for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Foosball, who's yours?
I got the budding track star DK Metcalf. I mean, we saw the track meet. He didn't come in. He came in last in his heat, but if you put together all the heats, he beat out 2 track stars who want to go to the Olympics, and he was pretty neck and neck in his heat, all without, like, he's not track training. Like, he's not working on his, like, starting posture and stuff. Like, that's not how the NFL lines up. So I thought it was pretty impressive.
When we knew that what was it, Buda Baker from the Cardinals, where he chased him down, and everybody has that meme stuff. We knew that he could be a track star. So I'm not surprised. I'm glad that he's doing it in the offseason. Kevin, who's your guy?
Yeah, I'm going with Jeff. I thought of Aaron Donald when I saw this, and I was just thinking about who's the guy that could rip me in half, and that would be Aaron Donald.
That could be a lot of players in the NFL.
Hey, easy there, Don. You're smaller than me there, buddy. But I would say
everybody would kill me.
I would say Aaron Donald, man. That man is a monster. When I see him, I don't know how he doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year he has to. He's just that athletic. He's a freak.
I'm curious. My bad, Eric. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say mine, and I don't like giving him credit, but it's got to be Tyreek Hill. I mean, track star speed, even though he doesn't do it. Whenever he catches a touchdown, he does a backflip in the end zone, and he's like 5'8", and he's mossing corners that are over 6 feet. He can jump. So I don't like giving him credit, but I'm just like, wow, this guy is an insane athlete. Like, he makes it look easy. Brad, I'm sorry.
He's got a quick 40, a long rap sheet. He's got a lot going on for him.
Yeah, quick hands.
Oh man,
this podcast just got off to.
It's getting dark.
Hey, we're getting real. I
was gonna ask, do you think if DK Metcalf tore his ACL running track in that race, do you think he would have got paid?
Ooh, I think because he's better, he might have gotten paid. I think the Seahawks would want to keep him for next year, so they'd have to. They would
do the Tyreek Hill thing where they would give him a contract extension now, but it wouldn't be the maximum he could get if he went into free agency healthy. They'd probably give him a 4-year, $40 million contract extension, which is an upgrade for him, but not if he hit the open market healthy. But
I agree with that.
Good discussion, gentlemen. We got our game of the week, and I'm hosting it. And we had the Schwab on a couple weeks ago. And
I'm sorry, Eric, I just want to say I had a moment when you're like, oh shit, I didn't do my homework or something. I was like, was I hosting this week?
Nah, it's me. I believe me, I was prepared. I always have a backup game. So we had the Schwab on a couple weeks ago. And one of the segments on there is leading off. And so I give you guys a category that's going to have multiple answers. And you're going to tell me a player that fits in that category. If you get it right, it goes to the next guy. If you get it wrong or you repeat an answer, you're out. So I have 4 categories here, and I have a 5th tiebreaker. So we're going to start, and we're going to go round robin. So the first is, who are the last 8 quarterbacks to lead the NFL in passing yards, including the last season? So 8 different quarterbacks. Brad, I'm going to start with you, then Kevin, then Jeff, then John, and then we're going to rotate. Sound good?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is not an answer.
Get out of here.
Yep. He has not led the league in passing yards. Kevin.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes has not led it either.
What?
Well, good. Yeah. Well, you don't get a lot of yards when you're doing 2-yard screens on the end zone.
Yeah.
Point, actually.
So we're going to Jeff. All 8
Drew
answers
Brees.
still on the board. Drew Brees, the most recent time he did it was 2016. John, to you.
Tom Brady, since we're going old heads.
Tom Brady did it in 2017. Jeff, back to you.
Who the heck led it last year? Is there a time restraint on this?
I mean, like 10 seconds.
Just be reasonable.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston, 2019.
Wow.
John, back to you.
Dangerous.
Dangerous did not do it. So the point goes to Jeff. The other ones, 2020, Deshaun Watson, who that's all we'll talk about. 2018, Ben Roethlisberger. 2010, Phillip Rivers, because Breeze and Brady alternated years a bunch.
I almost said Rivers.
2009, Matt Schaub. And 2004, Dante Culpepper.
Ooh.
I refuse to believe that Matt Schwab led the league.
It's kind of
2009.
crazy. It's kind of crazy you have to go back that far just to get to the 8th quarterback.
Exactly. That's why I was like, wow. Nobody's going to get the Dante Culpepper answer.
No, I wasn't. Nobody's going to get. I'd get Dante Culpepper before I got Matt Schwab.
So we got Jeff with one. The next one, the running back, the 8 most recent running backs who have led the league in rushing yards. And we're starting with Kevin on this one.
Led the league in rushing yards.
Yeah.
CMC.
CMC is incorrect. Rushing yards.
Let me go. Let me get a free one.
It's to Jeff.
No, let me go.
No,
it's
no,
to
no,
Jeff
let me
now.
go.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, the most recent one.
That's
We're
not
going to
right.
you, John.
Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook is incorrect. We're going to Brad.
How many years back do we get to go?
It's 8 players. It's not.
It's the
specific
8
years.
players.
Oh,
I'm not going to
okay,
tell you
8
how far they
players.
go back. The only correct answer so far is Derrick Henry.
I'm gonna go Zeke.
Zeke in 2018. We're going back to Jeff.
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray in 2014. There we go.
Wow.
Back to you, Brad.
I'm gonna go Sean Alexander.
That is incorrect. We didn't have to go back that far. The
I
other one.
didn't say Adrian Peterson.
There we go. Adrian Peterson
Yeah,
in
I screwed
2015.
mine up.
I was gonna say Priest Holmes before I said Sean Alexander.
No. So we got Kareem Hunt in
Larry
2017.
Priest Holmes, like, what, 2003?
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, we
Eric
don't have to go that
Dickerson.
far back. So we have
Eric Dickerson.
the list we have Kareem Hunt in 2017, Adrian Peterson in 2015, LaShawn McCoy in 2013, Maurice Jones-Drew in 2011, and Arian Foster in 2010.
This is a good
So-
game.
I actually was going to jokingly say Maurice Jones-Drew.
There you go. You
Yeah.
should have. You should have. So Jeff's got 2. You guys need to get 2 to tie, but we'll play 4 out anyway. The next one, wide receivers to lead the league in receiving yards. And Jeff, we're starting with you.
Oh, shoot. Well, Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas in 2019. John, to you.
This is harder because I feel like it might just be 8
Yeah.
players, like Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill is incorrect. We're going to Brad.
That's a good guess, too.
I'm gonna go Randy Moss.
Randy Moss is incorrect. Well, you guys are making
Yeah, I thought it's
really
too
quick.
far. I thought it would have to go too far.
That was like
because
2012. I feel like.
Kevin, to you.
I think Julio did it. Did Julio do it?
Julio did it in 2018. We're back to Jeff.
Shoot. Who did it last year?
Oh,
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is incorrect. So Kevin's going to win this category. We had Stephon Diggs in 2020. We had Antonio Brown, who did it 3 times,
Yeah, Antonio Brown.
most recently in 2017. T.Y. Hilton in 2016. Josh Gordon in 2013. He did it in 14 games.
memories.
Calvin Johnson in 2011. And Brandon Lloyd in 2010. So going into the last category, Jeff has 2. Kevin has 1. Brad and John have 0. Kevin, you got to get this to go to the tiebreaker question. And we're starting with John on this. The last 8 teams to have the best record or a share of the best record in the NFL.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Most recently, KC. Brad, we're going to you.
Saints.
The Saints had a share of it in 2018. Kevin, we're going to you.
Green Bay.
That is incorrect.
Ooh.
We're going to Jeff.
Patriots.
Patriots had a
Damn.
share of it in
Sounds good,
2017. We're going back to John.
Oh.
5 answers left.
Panthers.
Panthers are incorrect.
How? The Cam Newton, they went 15-1.
You'll find out after. We're
That
going
was
back
not
to
8
Brad.
years ago. That wasn't 8 years ago. No, this is shenanigans.
It's the last 8 teams to either lead the league in win or
So
have
you're
the best
telling?
record,
Oh my god.
or
Get out of
you'll
here.
hear it after. Brad, where do you?
I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
That is incorrect. So 2020 was the Chiefs. 2019 was the Ravens. 2018,
Baltimore's.
the Saints and the Rams both had the best record at 13-3. And in 2017, there was a 4-way tie between the Patriots, the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Eagles. So a little before the 2015 Panthers, but winning 3 out of the 4 categories.
I get robbed there.
Yeah, there we go. Winning 3 out of the 4 categories. Jeff, you are the winner. 15 seconds of FaceTime is yours. You know, I wish I had the round of applause. I'm not that advanced yet to have the.
I already get booze.
Nah, don't listen to Brad. Brad didn't get a single point, but Jeff, 15 seconds of FaceTime. If you want to talk about anything that you're working on, where they can find you on Twitter, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm just working on more injury profiles over at DLF and then Destination Devi with Ray GQ. Doing rookies right now, just breaking down my most concerning rookie wide receivers, running backs. Those are coming soon. And then tight ends, quarterbacks. So
sounds like a lot of stuff to keep you through the offseason. And if you want to see more of Jeff and kind of stalk him on his various platforms that he's working on, you can find him on Twitter at JMThrivePT. We appreciate you coming on and, you know, hopefully providing some clarity as draft season is coming up for things and players that people might have forgotten about. We are going to begin our division previews next week. David might be back. He might not be. Who knows? Maybe I'll kick him off for good. Until then, everybody stay safe and enjoy the weekend.